people are still asking me, hey, could you tell me a little bit about what you think is going on in Ukraine? And so that's what I want to tell you about. Before we get started, make sure you do two things. Number one, make sure that you subscribe. Number two, make sure you just click that little alert bell down there. Subscribe is what the Italians do. Hey, over here, we call it gancio sinistro. Bam, left hook. Now, my German friends, they do a little click on that alert bell. I don't know. Italians have the bell, but I just say click it. All right, enough of that. Listen to Ukraine. What's going on? A lot of information, I think, and misinformation is going on about what is happening. I think there's a lot of politics at play. I think, above all, I think it's a spiritual battle. But I would say that what is happening now is that you have a real tug of war going on from a vacuum of leadership in the world. I think a number of things are going on. I think Europe's actually stepping up to the plate. I think Europe is going to be a bigger player moving forward. I think they see that Germany for the first time in I don't know how many decades is really a massive boost to their own defense spending, because they just can't, these countries can't depend on the United States to be the overwhelming, defense for Europe. Listen, we're going broke. We got $30 trillion of debt, and really, in many cases, a lot of politicians don't have the fortitude to do the right thing. They do have the fortitude to, I think, in some cases, we're seeing, even here in Ukraine, to skew things untruthfully for political gain. But some of it's right, too. You have to really discern what's going on there. All I can do is share with you what I think is going on. We do pray for the Ukraine people, first and foremost. They're just in the middle of it. They didn't ask for it. You got Russia and China together as one. The United Nations, I believe it was, voted for an immediate stop of the war in Ukraine. I think the number was 138 nations, roughly. It might be off by a couple. Voted yes, stop immediately. 2 countries did not. Number 1 is Russia. Number 2 is China. Very telling where China is. We all knew they were supporting Russia. But listen, at the end of the day, they're going to have to answer to that. And I think that's going to be going on for a long time. And it's going to show up in commerce. It's going to show up in terms of business. And you want to do business around the world. You want a global world. It helps keep peace. And also, you have Putin, and you also have China. There's some good. There's always, remember, Dr. Geisler told me, it doesn't matter how bad the sermon is, there's always truth in it. Doesn't mean the sermon was truthful, but there's truth in every sermon. But that being said, with Russia and China, they're moving, rapidly to be a self-contained environment. I read one article said, they're going to get booted off the internet. That's a total political play. They've been moving for I think it's over 5 or 10, maybe 15 years in terms of drawing themselves off the main world internet in preparation for, they already had a mandate to have it done. They just moved it up quickly to have, in terms of self-contained internet. They don't necessarily want a global world. They want a self-contained kind of existence. Steve Turley wrote about this. You want to check him out on Rumble. Actually, he didn't write about it. It's a video, and he talks about this. He's Eastern Orthodox, so he comes perspective that you're dealing with Eastern Orthodox Christianity when you're dealing with Russia, not China, obviously. That being said, you have something else going on here which may not be as evident as we think, and that is, with Putin, there's truth and some goodness in what's going on, in the sense that he doesn't want globalization from the perspective of liberalization, anti-biblical. He wants to keep Eastern Orthodox Christianity alive and strong. He realizes that it's good for the culture, and it works well, and he doesn't want that element. The second element is this, his 2 main requests that I know of. I'm not an expert again. 2 things. Number 1, he wants 2 provinces within Ukraine. If this is true, it makes sense to me. They're already full of Russians, and he wants them. So what are you going to do? Yeah, I would say in the United States, if you have part of Idaho that wants to secede, or part of, good part of Washington State that wants to leave and join Idaho, I think you need to be free to do so. Outside of that, it's just a power grab, right? That's what the people want. If that's the majority of the people want, then let them go, like it or not. His second request is that there will be no nuclear warheads in Ukraine. Now, most of you don't know, Ukraine's the largest country, I believe, in Europe. And, I thought about it. What happens when Russia tried to put missiles in Cuba? We were about to go to war for that, if you remember that, many decades ago. JFK, you can go back and read about that. And, you're dealing now going to the 60s, and now even that stuff started brewing in the 50s. We think about that as a peaceful time, but we almost went to war over that. nobody. I think it's rightful, in a sense, to create some boundaries and buffers for Russia, as we would want. If that's what we want for us, we have to be fair for them. But it's, speaking the same thing, Russia has to make sure that this is just not a ploy for them to again take more of Ukraine. So that needs to be listed out. And so this is a fight right now between NATO, Western nations, and the East, which is Russia and their new trading partner, Iran, China. And as well, they're bringing Iran into the mix. The whole, the Iran thing with the nuclear agreement was really all along since Obama. If you just look at what it is, and Steve Turley talks about this, is simply cover to let them develop the program. The program is being developed for many years already. It continues at rapid speed. They probably most definitely will become a world player in the nuclear, at least have nuclear weapons. That's going to then affect the flow of oil, because coming out of Saudi Arabia through the Hormuz Straits or the Arabian Sea, you have to go through that little strait to get that oil to the rest of the world. So now they're going to have a say. It's one thing to pick on Iran when they don't have a nuclear weapon. When they do have a nuclear weapon, they got a lot more power. This is going to play out in gas prices in the future when they go to pull that political card. And the world typology or geopolitical setup is different now. It's changed forever. You can thank political leaders who have failed to lead strongly on that. But, I would say God is in control, and then we're going to see what comes from this. I think some good is going to come out of it, and the good, namely, is going to be Europe. I think is going to get better. I see good things for Europe in the upcoming days, that they're going to get stronger, on their national defense. It's going to take weight off the United States and perhaps draw us into a better relationship with Europe. I just hope we don't go at it with Russia or China. We don't need that. We should be doing commerce, but I think we give too much commerce to China, way too much commerce. We want to start spreading that out, because they've proven to be, they steal stuff, and they use it against us, and they steal stuff. I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to tell you something what I think. I think it's possible one day you might see China, if the Lord doesn't return, and maybe soon he's going to return, but if he doesn't return soon, you may see China or another nation as the next great Christian nation. Maybe not. Maybe there'll never be another great Christian nation. I don't know. I don't know what God's up to. But God has why do you say that? Well, there's a lot of Christians in China, and God has a funny way of doing things in this world. And they're usually the complete opposite of how we could ever imagine. So when people say that'll never happen, well, that tells me there's a good chance it's going to happen, because that's what God does. He does what we can never even think is possible. So that's what I think is going on with Ukraine. We're going to see what happens. I think eventually it settles down in the upcoming weeks. I may be wrong, but I do see peace, because I think Russia is going to have to, and I think they'll hold face. They'll get something. They'll come up to some kind of agreement at Ukraine, and things will settle down. I think the big loser here is China, from the sense that, listen, they had a chance to stand with the rest of the world between these two, and they're the only ones who sided with Russia, and that is going to hurt them politically in time to come. Yes, they're huge. They can self-sustain at this point, but you can't live without the world. They'll continue to trade with Iran and with Russia, and so they'll do well, but I'm not certain they'll do as well as they used to. Anyways, in all of this, we need to be praying for all the people with Ukraine. We need to be praying for those who are believers, that God would protect and provide for them, and we need to pray that God uses this to reach the many who are not believers. That is key, because these are the times where people start they don't say, are you an atheist? Well, when bombs are blowing up and the building next to you comes down because it was exploded by a fighter jet, you're really not thinking about being an atheist. You start to think about the brevity of life, the shortness of life, and that gives not everybody, but most people. And I think that gives a great opportunity to share our faith. Let's pray for the Ukrainian people. They have the boldness and the opportunity to share their faith, and that world peace would be restored once again. So God's blessings to you. Thank you for tuning in and hearing me out on this one. This is what I think. I'm not perfect. I'm not claiming to be a prophet, because I'm not. I think all the prophecy you need is right within the book, the covers of the Bible. God obviously has other things planned, but only He knows that. So God's blessings to you. Let's be in prayer for Ukraine. Be in prayer for Russia and China and all the believers. prayer for Europe and the United States of America, and prayer for you and I. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure that you go ahead, you smash that subscribe button below, and you click that little alert bell, and then check out reasonfortruth.org, reasonfortruth.bible. God's blessings to you. Let's stay in prayer. I'm your host, Stevie Garofalo, and this is your Reason for Truth for today.